facts and figures which has been put in front of you. So I request Billy, please take the lead and coordinate with the question answer round.
Please, first our members, then guests. That is the policy. Mike. So how they will know? There seems to be some drop.
Okay, so it has been a wonderful session.
Please raise your hand so those who want to ask.
It's been a wonderful session. Thank you all, and thank you for apology for conducting it so well. And I invite questions. So please introduce yourself, and then we can have it. And then also the to whom your question is directed. Sindhu Bhattacharya. Sindhu, please just stand up and say so that we can see you.
So what are the provisions in other countries while dealing with things in polls in
These kind of situations, especially
Political deepfakes.
by political parties?
I think the first bit of the question was also that when political parties are falsely claiming a content as misleading, that was I think the first question. Then what are the provisions in the IT rules or IT Act? I can take that bit. I just answer that. So I think so. The Rule 3, subpart 2 again introduced this amendment by way of which there's a provision that says that anything that is false or misleading or is misinformation online needs to be taken action on by the platforms. Now, when this happened, I think the concern was that there was no definition for what is, and the three words that we used were fake, false, and misleading, and also misinformation. Now, these words weren't defined in the Act, Parent Act, which is the IT Act of 2000, or the rules. And again, going back to the point of how IT rules has been this draconian law that's been misused to clamp down on free speech. So there's always this possibility of that being misused selectively or for selective enforcement. So while that provision exists, for which political party is that provision being applied to? For which speaker of which political party? That's all very arbitrary. Because again, decision taken by platform, and this is on platforms. Moderation decision taken by platforms are not revealed in the public domain, as is the case in, say, for instance, under the Digital Services Act in the EU. There is this obligation on platforms to mention in the public domain all the moderation decisions that they've taken. And it's a long database, it's a huge database, but imagine what researchers can do with that kind of information, the kind of academic research they can do based on that, based on what kind of decisions these platforms are taking. That kind of provision does not exist within India, and whatever provisions do exist to increase the transparency and accountability of platforms towards its users is very, very surface level. I won't go into the details, but so that's that. So while that provision you can say in the law does exist, how it's being used or misused is another conversation. Is there any obligation on platforms to target deepfakes, and
Shouldn't there be any obligation?
Should they?
No, is there?
I mean, so again, I think there are limitations with respect to detection and attribution of deepfake content. We need to first realize that. So while yes, in an ideal scenario, there will be obligations on the platform, there will be obligations on parties and the ECI and the government. But at the moment, I mean, there is only so much that the platforms can do, because at least in the short run, there are such limitations in identifying deepfakes. And also then, let's think about linguistic diversity in a country like India, and then AI generated content in a diverse country like India. So then platforms' capability with respect to such diversity, that's also limited. And while these are all shortcomings, when we put these things as a mandatory obligation in the law, in the current political environment, it is often misused because the phrasing is so vague and open-ended. So while yes, there needs to be obligation on not just like platforms but AI generated content developers, people who are developing such tools in the first place, we need more research. As sad and as a long-term intervention, we need research into understanding what is a deepfake, what are the complexities that are associated with detecting the deepfake, what are the different types of deepfakes. We need research for that first, and then expect platforms to take actions on a routine basis.
Yeah, Shobna, she has a question.
थोड़ा जोर से
थोड़ी सी हेल्प कर देती हूँ आपकी. Sorry guys, little issues with the cordless mic.
जैसे मैं इस सब्जेक्ट को भी सुन रही थी तो काफ़ी बातें हैं जो हम लोग अभी नहीं जानते और जानना चाहते हैं. ये सवाल मेरा मिस्टर शर्मा से है, और भी कोई हमारे पैनलिस्ट उसमें बोलना चाहें तो. जैसे आप लोग बता रहे हैं कि आजकल का जो इलेक्शन, मैं रिसेंट इलेक्शन की ही बात कर रही हूँ जिसमें हम लोग अभी हैं, जिस तरीके का कैंपेन बहुत अगली हो रहा है, लेकिन उसमें ये जो AI का हम रोल देखेंगे तो इलेक्शन कमीशन की क्या भूमिका रह जाएगी, जब IT रूल्स की हम खास बात कर ही रहे हैं कि IT रूल्स इतने स्ट्रॉन्ग है नहीं, और EC की भूमिका क्या रह जाएगी. वैसे ही उसका रिप्रेजेंटेशन एक्ट में अभी भी हम देख रहे हैं कि मेरी पर्सनल राय है कि हम वो ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं कर पा रहे. सेकेंड, अगर दीदी सेकेंड मैं पूछूँ इसी के साथ एक सप्लीमेंट्री, तो सेकेंड क्वेश्चन ये है कि जिस तरीके से आगे के रोल हम कैसे देख पा रहे हैं. अगर ये तक मैंने सुना और पढ़ा कि आगे अगला जो इलेक्शन अगर होता है हमारे देश में तो इसमें इलेक्शन का ये सीन होगा कि आप घर बैठे ही AI की मदद से वोटिंग कर सकते हैं. तो ये तो आजकल भी हमारे यहाँ बहुत बड़ा इसका मिसयूज हो रहा है. तो इसमें AI की भूमिका तो काफ़ी ख़राब नज़र आ रही है, इसके फ़ायदे भी हैं. तो इसमें थोड़ा सा आप एलाबोरेट करें कि आपने जब मैनिफेस्टो की भी बात की थी कि किस तरीके से मैनिफेस्टो को इम्प्लीमेंट कर सकते हैं. तो ये 3-4 क्वेरीज हमारे यहाँ अच्छा होगा अगर आपने एनलाइटन कर पाए.
I'll just add one question.
That also, I have a related question.
Is there any possibility if ECI can manipulate election results or data by using AI?
That's a mother question.
No, if we are talking about AI can do so much, and ECI image, everyone knows.
Maybe you can take a clutch of questions because I feel it's related. I'm loud enough. I'm Sujata.
Yeah.
I'm Sujata. I don't need it. And I'm a grassroots development writer.
पीछे आवाज नहीं जाएगी.
अच्छा, okay.
You can help you out.
So Karthik, this is a question to you about the digital twin. I'm just imagining a scenario when the digital twin goes to a localized voter, a group of voters, say in Haryana or any Kasbah, and has that chat and gets that confidence, etc. But what about the continuity? I mean, tomorrow if the issue requires another round of consultation, or if some advice that the person has given and he's followed it and he's come back and said it's no go, or I need more help. How does that work? That's one. The other thing is, I mean, this may sound a little naive, but I mean, I think we are all learning, getting our toes wet. Is the quality difference between the original and the fake. I mean, there may be many levels of this thing, and the technology is being developed now. So, is it 19-20 ka farak, or is it much more than that? And how does one bridge that gap? I mean, this is a huge concern. Is
So
it
there are
exactly?
four questions.
Yeah.
Sure, I mean, I'll start and then you guys can pitch in as well.
Yeah, it's for all, but that is triggered what you
Right.
said.
So one of the things which you mentioned in terms of, so I also want to clarify the previous question which was being brought about in terms of how a particular political party can claim or not claim a particular content, and what's the role of platform. I'll just put that as a context and answer these as well. See, the main issue is, let's say a particular deepfake, this content is created on a platform, and I as a political party, I am resharing it or reposting it. I have not created that content. It's on the platform and I have just shared it without knowing whether it was deepfake or real.
Right.
And as per current laws, how you are able to strangle me and put accountability on me, as of now it doesn't exist. Right? Because it's not a content which I created and I didn't know and I was not fully informed that this is a fake content. Secondly, if you talk about a platform, the way platforms work is they work on UGC. So it's all user generated content. Platform is not creating any organic content. So the platform would say, hey, a user has generated content, they have signed a consent policy with me and has taken a digital undertaking that they will not do da and comply with rules, not sentiment, the whole 9 yards. And if they have generated content and another user has reposted that content, platform is not on the wrong from purest technical perspective. If you talk about moderation, you would have heard the famous case which Facebook had to undergo with their moderator, when they had to pay compensation for the harassment they had to face in terms of going to the content. Now, because it was humanly impossible, if you know the stats or not take enough time in giving the stats, it's humanly impossible for any platform today, the big ones like a Meta or a Twitter, to manually moderate the amount of content which is generated every single minute, or if I say every single day. They would have to deploy upwards of 500,000 people who just do moderation without blinking their eyes. So it's not possible beyond ever. So what these platforms have now done is they have also developed AI moderators. So they have trained from previous historical data of billions of content pieces and how human moderators were taking a call. And they have put that, if you go to the Meta case in US, they have said that this is what we have used as a base case, and based on that we have created AI moderators who with a certain degree of tolerance and accuracy would do moderation. Beyond that, it's not a. So that's just the lay of land in terms of how you can fix accountability, whether it's a user or a. And if I talk about a user, now you can create bot as a user as well. So how do you again ring fence that accountability? So some bot created some content which is shared by so many people, becomes viral, and in that chain there is a political party. You can't pinpoint and say, hey, you are spreading misinformation. Technically speaking, you may use it as a gambit to say, hey, so many MPs of your party are sharing, but they are not generating that content organically. So that's an important thing. Second, you talk about ECI. See, there are two things in this. One is the detection part of it, the second is enforcement. So ECI's mandate is more around enforcement. So let's say if you are able to figure out that, let's say Karthik as a user has generated some content using AI, which is become viral, but he is the source user who created this content on this platform, and it's deepfake. Now, how do you then take action against that user? Enforce the law. That's where ECI can take action, and that penalty has to be extremely prohibitive. It cannot be slap on the wrist. And at the same time, how do you again fix the core user? Let's say I create an account in her name, using her picture, her details, which makes it in a way her account. And I post that deepfake from her account and it becomes viral. So as per current rules, she is going to be involved in the FIR, right? She has to again explain So these are the rules which are right now very vague in terms of our current law. So ECI can only take action and make that action so prohibitive that it acts as a deterrent. Beyond that, ECI does not have, in my limited knowledge, the bandwidth to be able to detect deepfakes and put that technology team. It's just not usually possible with ECI building.
I just want one very late question in that. You can't trace the device from which it has been created.
You can throw it in the ocean.
So, like,
You can't
when
find
we
it
talk
IP
about
address or anything
deepfake,
else.
actually my first question was,
Let's
one second, it's just a
There's a
supplement.
lot of questions unanswered.
When deepfake, how to identify? You are mentioning about government laws and this thing, but as a common user or whoever is, because who is having digital platform or anything, how one can combat or fight out their case, because genuinely they may not be into creating content deepfake. Like recent example, Ranveer Singh, that whole content was that in Varanasi when they visited, the voice was used, it was cloned, that unemployment and all that. But nowhere in the news is who was the original content creator. So that area is completely in dark zone. Nobody can find out. So how do we, and somewhere, governments are also involved in that. We don't know who created, and government is not going to take any action because maybe government is, willing partner in that.
So you're going to respond.
Yeah.
How to find out that, identify?
So the thing is, there are a lot of stakeholders in this. When something like the Ranveer Kapoor video is released,
Same.
so Ranveer Singh video is released. One is the distributor, so basically the social media platform where it was distributed. Now, social media companies and also a lot of generative AI companies had met last March in Munich, and they signed a tech accord to agree on certain guidelines, for example, provenance, labeling, things like watermarking, things like that. Now, when something like that is released on social media, if it is fact-checked, Facebook, for example, Meta has third-party fact-checking partnerships, like we are part of that as well, and certain other companies as well, like YouTube, they have certain policies on election-related disinformation. So based on those guidelines, these videos would be taken down. Then there is another stakeholder, is the tool that is used to manipulate this media, the AI tool. Now there are certain companies like OpenAI, Midjourney, they do have these guidelines which prohibit the use of their tools for political purposes. But we have seen a lot of examples that prove that these guidelines don't work when it comes to the Indian politics. Midjourney has certain restrictions for creation of deepfakes of US politicians, but when it comes to Indian politicians, those guidelines don't work anymore. Another stakeholder are the political parties who may be behind this. Now this, I feel like EC has been discussed a lot here. I feel like here ECI can play a big role in, because you have the model code of conduct, which basically gives out a certain guideline on how political parties should put out content online and offline, during the campaigning season. So during the election season. So ECI can definitely come and enforce a rule which forces political parties to be transparent about the use of artificial intelligence. For example, the case that Karthik had mentioned earlier also, which basically you can now, Narendra Modi, for example, there are these pages on Twitter, these accounts on Twitter, where his speeches are translated into various languages. Now, this is not a bad use of AI, but I do feel that political parties should be transparent about this use. Like, okay, we use this using AI that we put out in different languages, so people are aware how and in what cases, in what scenarios AI is being used. So EC can definitely enforce a rule like that, where they bar certain uses of deepfakes. For example, use of deepfakes to malign a certain political candidate or member of a party, or using deepfakes to mislead voters, which is the biggest concern of all. Say a video, or just on the day of polling, you see a video of Rahul Gandhi saying Congress is withdrawing from the elections. A lot of people don't understand these, and when they see videos like this, they might be, misled into not voting. So that is why, and that is the fear in this election season specifically, and for a lot of countries, and not just India, that because the technology is so new, the damage it can do is a lot before we can actually, and I'm sure in 10 years time we will learn how to regulate this in wonderful ways, but how about in 10 days time, before the next phase of polling, that is the concern. I think somebody asked something about whether EC can change the election results using AI. To my knowledge, no. Election results can be rigged in a lot of different ways. I just came back from Manipur yesterday and I saw a live example of how you can rig polling, So, but yeah, AI has not advanced to a level where it can be used to completely change the election results. And I think I'm sorry, I'm just answering a lot of questions that have been asked. Somebody asked about the difference between deepfakes and reality. So for us fact checkers, faced with AI-led disinformation, up until very recently, we have been relying on anomalies and inconsistencies in media that is created using AI, generative AI. And these inconsistencies are like basically like the skin tone being unnaturally smooth, the teeth blurring out, the fingers don't look normal, extra hands appearing. So all these inconsistencies helped us detect deepfakes. But the technology is getting better. It's getting better to the point that it's getting harder and harder to tell whether it's AI generated or whether it's a real video. For example, I think you mentioned Sora as well. That was a new OpenAI tool, and from what I learned about Sora is that this tool can create videos that are so realistic that you can't tell using just manually using your eyes. You can't tell. So fact checkers are more and more dependent on technology now, and a big challenge that we face is that you can create deepfakes for a very cheap cost. You can just use a deepfake tool. You can pay $10 and create a deepfake, very realistic deepfake of somebody. But to fact check that using a detection tool, you have to pay like 3,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees, for example. And this is like, in my experience, the tools that I have encountered and seen, the good tools exactly, they're very, very expensive. So the battle is kind of skewed there, where we are like sitting ducks and we have to shell out a lot of money, and there's not a lot. I feel like the companies that are creating these tools, they are the ones who should also be creating these deepfake detectors. OpenAI should create a deepfake detector that can help people, like find out whether a dolly has been used in creating a certain image. So yeah, that's just my take on this.
Yes, someone has a. I just want to ask, जैसे आपने बताया पाकिस्तान में सुसाइड करना पड़ा, तो इसका कोई सोल्यूशन नहीं है कि किसी की लाइफ बर्बाद हो जाए इसकी वजह से और वो सुसाइड कर ले और हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते, हमारी गवर्नमेंट कुछ नहीं कर सकती.
Yeah, they can answer.
For other audience, because she doesn't have the mic, she's asking कि पाकिस्तान में सुसाइड करना पड़ा ऑनर के लिए, ऑनर के लिए, तो उस पे
I don't think Archis or Kartik ने काफी कुछ बताया इस बारे में. I don't have technological expertise, but I think यहाँ पे जो ये specific case था वो honor killing का था, and मेरा
so many cases but not reporting.
Yeah, of course. और हम लोगों को deepfakes और pornographic videos जो पता चलती है वो भी हमें इसलिए न्यूज़ में आती है क्योंकि वो बॉलीवुड स्टार्स की होती है. We don't get to know about general public, general women who are victims of deepfakes. I will give a more sociological response because that is my area of expertise. Because see, where is the problem? So okay, there was a fake image of a young girl with a man. I haven't seen the image. I only read news. I don't know what that image showed. But what news made compromised position. Now, whatever that compromised position was, they were intimate or whatever. I want to, as a society, we need to question कि इतना क्या बुरा हो गया अगर वो इमेज सही भी होती है. Let's say it's a real image, and she was with her boyfriend or whatever. Why is it so bad that a father has to kill his daughter because they feel that the honor of the family, the honor of that man
lies in that in his daughter's body, in his daughter's private parts. So I think that is where I am coming from, and that is what we need to question in society. When we punish women for showing their body or not showing their body, whatever they do with their body, why do we punish women? Why do we put so much onus on women's bodies? That an honor killing is not, this is not a case in Pakistan. India don't take honor killing.
That's why I'm telling you that society cannot be changed so fast. But the tools we are getting, they are coming very fast in our
It becomes handy for,
they can harm our society, our girls, so much that we can't even imagine. So can't we do anything about that?
I think for us my job or people like me who work on gender and media, I think for us the biggest thing that we can do is educate people both on the mentality side. This is not a big deal, okay? And second also media literacy, जो बाकी भी लोगों ने बात कर ली है कि कैसे हम लोगों को ये समझा सकते हैं कि what is real and what is deepfake. But अभी I don't know point पे कितना आते हैं since I just explain to everybody how difficult it is becoming every day.
So now we Sujata ji, you had some question.
Yeah, well, now a different question. What worries me is that most of us will not be able to tell a deep fake, right? And we'll share it. We'll share it on, maybe 3 different platforms. Now, I know none of you are lawyers, but still, what is the individual's legal liability in this kind of situation? It's not just the platform's liability.
अभी risk क्या है?
अभी कुछ नहीं है. As an individual, I can say.
No, I don't think that would be
Share a
good.
content saying I didn't know this was.
Platform.
No, under the IT rules, maybe.
A few years back, some women journalists, online abuse was so bad, like Sulli Bai and all that.
Yes.
So what are the legal options one can fight out such? There is real threat. I mean, individual level and I would say that individual level it is much more. How one can fight out such abuse, online abuse? What are the legal options? That was horrible. Like what
There is additional cases.
What Sujata is saying and what Aditi is also pointing on, and to what Tejas said, that the onus, right now it actually lies on the platform, right, and not so much on the user, because you cannot track the user.
If you're able to track, then the user who generated has the liability, not the one who shared.
No, but how to find the user?
That platform is the best way to figure out the traces.
No, but suppose somebody wants to target me, like in Rana, you or some journalist case. But if somebody is targeted, how that person, everyone in this room also, we are not AI expert. So we don't know how to find out that content creator, how we question that. So I'm asking what are the 5-10 points which as a journalist people should know essentially, that if we face any such scenario, how we can handle it. Cybercrime doesn't do
They
anything.
do nothing.
Very difficult.
So that is the situation.
Please let Kartik answer this question.
As on date, it has not become so simple that a common layman will be able to make the difference.
Sir,
You
please
be known.
introduce yourself also.
Myself, GS Bava. I represent the aviation fraternity, and I am the Secretary General of Public Relations Society, Delhi. So, and I personally feel that as on date, there is no simplification of identification of the AI tools.
Sir,
and
we have answer from experts.
yes, right.